Hi, I'm Hannah Brents. I am a licensed independent clinical social worker and a registered yoga instructor with a private practice in Massachusetts. And this is the Theology Therapist YouTube channel. I have a bachelor's and master's degree in religious studies, and I know firsthand how toxic fundamentalist and cultic religious communities can be. So thanks for being here. Before we jump into today, remember to subscribe to the Theology Therapist YouTube channel and press the bell notification so you can get updates on all weekly new releases. Lastly, if you find any of this helpful, I would love if you would leave a comment or share with a friend. All right, so let's get started. Today I want to talk about the question, is recovery from religious trauma possible? Yes. Yes. So researcher Laura Anderson, she is an expert in the field. She researches religious trauma, and she says that the idea of religious trauma syndrome, which we've talked about here on Theology Therapist as well, is a misnomer because it implies the irreversibility, but it shows up the same and is treated the same way as other traumas. So she says, like, whether it's an incident like an assault or a car accident or like prolonged sort of childhood abuse, religious trauma, like, it's all the same. It all is treated in treatment with modalities. It's all exactly the same. This is further proved by not needing a therapist who is, sort of specific to religious trauma. So she also talks about how an important factor is in its universality, in saying this is not a syndrome, this is actually just a type of trauma experience, is that any licensed medical or mental health professional can treat religious trauma. You don't have to see a therapist who has experience in religious trauma. You could see anybody. I'm gonna say yes and no. I think that is true. She might agree with this, I don't know. But I do think that, while yes, any medical or mental health professional could treat religious trauma, you don't have to see a therapist who was evangelical if you were evangelical. That definitely is not the case. But I do think that it can be helpful to have somebody a therapist who is, one, comfortable talking about religion, because I have colleagues who say that, they're not. And a therapist who is in some way versed in religion itself, because religions are huge. It's kind of, a beast. It's and so if somebody isn't versed in that, it's not that they can't be helpful, actually, but just that it can be helpful to have a shared language. I think that shared language piece can be a profound experience when we're dealing with religious trauma. Religious trauma is treated very similarly as complex PTSD. There are essentially the symptoms, which we've talked about in the past. We'll link in the description some of the episodes we've done in the past that are talking about just this. How is religious trauma similar? How does it look the same as complex PTSD? So we'll link those in the description so you can go back and watch those if you haven't already. The therapist and the therapy might be the same. Am I gonna see somebody who's is it the thing to check in about might be, is it important to me if this therapist feels comfortable talking about religion or spirituality? Is it important to me that if they have a shared language? If not, then that kind of opens up the doors. If so, then that is going to inform who you're going to look for. So I wanted to kind of segue out of that and saying yes, it's 100% possible to recover from religious trauma. Here are some of the things to know about seeking treatment for religious trauma, and segue into what are some of the aspects that are likely going to need to be addressed through that recovery process. So the first one is going to be body awareness. I think this is a huge point, a huge aspect of recovery from religious trauma, because most religions shun the body. Bodies are bad. the physical world is bad. There are a lot of ways that religions, for lack of a better word, pathologize the body. And so people who have been deeply embedded in these toxic communities are really out of touch with their body. They're like disembodied. They lack that body awareness. And so one of the things that we need to reclaim and re-inhabit is our bodies. Some of the ways that inroads you might find to do that might be through meditation, might be through yoga, martial arts, like some of these, maybe through dance, the arts, like some of these ways that can be slow, ways that are intentional often. Like that slow intentionality is so crucial. It's so important to easing back in to our bodies and to getting to know something that was like kind of weaponized, especially as women in religious communities or in toxic religious communities. Our bodies were weaponized and said that, we were the cause of the reason why men sin, or causing, like, men aren't in control of their actions or their sexual desires or their thoughts, and it's our job to protect the men or the boys in the group. And if there has been, some sort of assault or abuse that has occurred, often the woman is asked if it is a woman, because it's not always. What were you wearing? What did you do to make him mad? What did you do wrong? So, like, women's bodies, a lot more than men's, are sexualized and then weaponized. And so there is significant need to reclaim and re-inhabit body. Second area would be intuition and trust, I would say, that needs that special attention during this recovery process. As you become embodied, you may learn and recognize your own voice. And as you learn to recognize your own voice, you learn to trust yourself more and more. In these fundamentalist religious communities, you're taught that most of the time that you are not the expert on you, that there is, God aside, there is some person or a group of people that know what's best for you. So you learn that, like, you don't know what's best for you. You need to go and look for that from other people or from other sources. And so learning to know what your own voice sounds like and to trust that voice is an integral part of recovery from religious trauma. And lastly, the thing that I would say that is hugely important and fun, can be, but it can also be really anxiety inducing, is the need to let go of the rules and to be bad, to allow yourself to be bad in what you might have used to have thought of bad. So religious trauma tells you that you are unlovable and unforgivable if you are not perfect. And one of the things that you have to unlearn after religious trauma is the drive to be perfect. So here is your permission slip to be bad. Go ahead and cuss, wear the clothes that you feel confident in, decide what you want and not what others want, and say what you want in the bedroom, because life's too short to not be confident in you, to not have fun or pleasure or whatever that is. Life is too short to only be perfect. So what are you waiting for? Let me know in the comments what you think about this. If you are on a recovery through religious trauma, we'd love to hear from you how that has been. Feel free to share with a friend if you think that this would be helpful. I hope you have a good week, and I'll see you back here next week.